Hello and welcome back. My name is David Baleno. This is another installment of how we can improve our mental performance, right? And this is going to be another video that's really focused on raising self-awareness and seeing self-awareness as that foundational level of the mental performance pyramid. Let's get started. Now, as I mentioned in the last video, if we look at mental performance in terms of a pyramid, self-knowledge and self-awareness are really that bottom level, and everything else builds from there. So we can't really overstate or skip up to the skills and strategies until we build a strong foundation. And today we're going to start with two really important questions. What makes you tick, and what ticks you off? So in the last video we asked, what's your why? And if you think about what's your why, that's kind of why you participate or why you show up in the first place. But now we're going to talk about what makes you tick or what keeps you going in the moment, right? Whether it's on the field, on the track, on the court, wherever your sport takes place. And for me, coming from a soccer background, I could look and say, all right, well, some of the things that made me tick were, scoring a big goal or a big tackle or a big save or winning a big match. And we all have different examples based on our sport, but we're kind of really building that self-awareness to figure out what keeps you going in the moment in your sport. So our first activity is going to be list 5 things that make you tick in your sport or in your activity. And under each of those, we're going to come up with a concrete example. And when I say concrete example, I mean try to add as much description as possible, right? As much as you can remember about those situations, right? So the location, the time of the year, who was around you, what exactly happened, who your opponent was, all right? And the more information and more descriptive you can be, the more self-awareness you'll raise in the process. Our second activity is going to be come up with 5 things that tick you off. These could be things that frustrate you or bother you or things that get you off of your game. Now, going back to my soccer background, I could say, right, maybe some of these for me would be bad referee decisions or a nagging injury. And again, after you've come up with your list, come up with a concrete example for each of those. So next I want you to take a look at the list you made. All right, so we have the list of things that make you tick and the things that tick you off. And we're going to ask yourself a simple question. How much control do you have over all the things you've written down? Right? So as athletes and as coaches and performers, we need to be self-aware of how much energy we expend on things that we do or don't have control over. Now, the personal example for me about the referee decisions, right, as a player, especially as an early coach, there would be countless times where the referee would make a bad call, I would throw my hands up in the air, I would complain out loud. But when I reflect on that, how much control do I actually have over that referee's decision? So this leads me to one of my favorite quotes, and it's a Viktor Frankl quote that goes like this. Between a stimulus and a response, there is a space. So if we look at the example with the referees, the referee blows the whistle, that's the stimulus. Me throwing my hands up in the air complaining, that's my response. Now, it wasn't until I gained some self-awareness as this is something that ticks me off that I could work in that space to change my behavior. So I think you could see, right, one of the main purposes of this activity is to raise self-awareness about the things that make you tick and the things that tick you off. One of our ultimate goals in sports is to be consistent. And in order to be consistent, we need to have control over our responses. And self-awareness is that key piece that allows you to work in that space between the stimulus and the response. So the things that come up that will keep you on your game, you can feed off of those. And the things that come up that are going to get you off your game, you can respond correctly. So if you remember in the last video, I used a phrase that's popular in sports psychology, and that is control the controllables. And by building self-awareness and self-knowledge and putting a lot of time and energy into this activity, we can help focus on the things that we can control and less on the things we can't control. And remember, you can't control the stimulus, but you can control your responses. Well, I hope that gives you some things to think about as we build that mental performance pyramid. Like I mentioned, self-awareness and self-knowledge are that foundational piece. And in future videos, we'll get to the skills and strategies, which is the next level to help us work in that space between the stimulus and the response. Thanks for tuning in. I'll see you next time.